Hi, good morning. My name is Cristobal Mingo. I am the meal manager for DRC Iraq. We're going to go over the meal process in DRC Iraq in this video for training purposes. This video is divided in 4 parts: monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning. And this is the first video. As you can see, the diagram shows that monitoring is something that happens throughout the lifetime of the process. And evaluations are something particular, a point to sit down and look back what's going on. They connect directly to the learning process. Accountability, just like monitoring, is something that again happens throughout the lifetime of the process. And the last 3, monitoring, evaluation, accountability, leads to the final point of learning, which is the start again of the monitoring process with a new grant. Learning is the spot in which we can look back, take actions, and improve our systems based on what we learned and what we monitored the past grant. So quickly, let's look at the structure for DRC Iraq. This diagram shows the 3 area offices and the country office, and all the meal team inside them. You can see that Tikrit, for example, with the central area of Iraq in yellow. Here you can see in the map, has this area manager, but the meal team reports directly to the meal manager in country office. The same thing with the south team, with a team of 4, led by an officer, and the team on Ninawa, led by a meal team leader, team of 5. The main idea here is that each area manager has control on the area, but finally the meal team reports directly to the country office, meal manager. Let's go into the monitoring. So at any stage, there is a master list of indicators available for DRC Iraq, which is consulted frequently by meal staff and PMs when they want to do a new grant. The idea is here they can find outcome level indicators that can help them in new future proposals and to know how we're actually measuring them. This is basically an Excel table that's online following this link that shows the project, this person responsible, a unique identifying code, and the indicator itself, as well as how it's going to measure and the area and the sector and frequency by which is measured. As well, we can see which core activity is linked to that particular indicator. For example, if I'm willing to look for new indicators for casual work, I just filter this column for casual work. The same thing if I want to text search the indicators themselves, I can see improvement in access to community infrastructure, for example. And I'll see all the indicators that are related to that and the way they're measured. If the good thing is that if they're here, this means that they can later be linked to existing tools because we're already measuring them and modes of analysis. So they'll be much quicker for you as a PM to take this indicators from this list, outcome levels. So one of the key things here is that we've had a consolidation of the tools, meaning that we use one single tool for multiple different activities. For example, in a grant related to livelihoods, for example, we would have one survey that collects data for a business beneficiary, a casual work beneficiary, and a job placement beneficiary. The common set of tools are ID and location related, and there's other common tools like neighborhood income strategies, the depth, their income. But a few questions will be only for job placement beneficiaries, for example, the conditions of the job, and businesses will also have a different set of questions. This allows having one SOP, less tools, less confusion for the team, easier training, and quicker measurements. At the same time, you'll notice that we're focusing on outcome level indicators, meaning that the activity in itself might change. We might change the way we produce our beneficiaries reduce in basic needs, but it could be through an IPA assistance or it could be through MPCA. So these beneficiaries will be able to cover the basic needs the same way. It's just that the activities themselves change much more often than the outcome level. That's why we focus on those. Okay, and after a proposal is set, meal team is involved in it, even getting a voice on how much budget there is for meal, budgeting for the staff, in collaboration with the area managers. And as well, there is a process here that allows not to have random indicators all the time. That you find them like, how am I going to measure this? But at the same time, meaning that they will have more frequent indicators, more repeated indicators, because our activities are quite similar year to year with small changes. We're not trapped in a reporting machine, meaning that we don't have to produce a different report every time. We can automate the reports. And this is done through Power BI, which is a tool directly linking to our surveys online. Data is collected by the teams, either by the field teams on the implementing side or the meal monitoring teams, which call beneficiaries later on for spot checks and PDMs, post-distribution monitoring. And you can see, for example, if I press here, this link, you'll see the report for the Integrated Livelihood Survey, which is a survey that looks at multiple things for all livelihood beneficiaries. For example, in this page, I can look at the change in income. For example, if I look at grant 171 plus grant, if I press Control, I can also press another grant, and I can see both grants here and the portion of the population that we call that increase. This is a sampling again, and the sampling is done in a way that I'll follow in the following slide I'll show you. That represents or aims to represent to a usually 95 to 5 margin of error, the population itself. So here you can see a disaggregation of the same graph, but by different status of the household, status of the displacements, the returnees, the host communities, and another, the IDPs, right? You can also cross-filter. For example, I like to look at IDPs in different graphs, and I see how many of them there are host communities, many of them are returnees. You can see these two projects focused mostly on returnees. Whereas overall in DRC Iraq, I think the story might be different. No, it's not. The same graph disaggregated by type of activity, agribusiness, and you see the different amounts of proportion to the increase, right? The current employment. Difference between male and female, which is quite relevant to analyze. You can see here that females tend to be have less chances of being employed, having an increase in income. This is measured by contrasting income at baseline level with an intake survey, and that's used for selection as well, and a N-line PDM, which is called the Integrated Level Survey. The same here we have for different types of activities, right? So if I select just one grant, or let's say if I select a particular location instead of a grant, we can see the effects of the location particularly, and we can compare in the same location one grant versus other grants, right? Sulemania is very small, so we wouldn't have much. But for example, Ninawa is quite big. We might be able to compare more interesting data. You can see that the number goes to the thousands here. Well, that's one example of many multiple automated reports that are available if we follow the unique indicators at the proposal stage. So how this works, how this happens, how do you get to these reports? So every time a new proposal comes in, the meal team starts developing the M&E plan. It could be that the meal team leader in that particular location makes a particular M&E plan for that, or it could be done at country level. There's an example of the format of an M&E plan available from HQ. So the way this happens is that we go through all the indicators and see who's responsible for measuring what and when. When doing that, we aid ourselves with a tracker. The tracker has the location the measurement will be taking place, the project is under, the particular activity or tool it's going to be using, and the sample size, as well as much other lines of information. All this is prepared related to any particular grant. So for example, if I have a grant that will measure integrated level survey, the level of income or the change in income, the team knows that they should be using the integrated livelihood survey. So they take that population that will be assisted and look at the implementation plan and see, okay, these measurements will be put across this month, let's say 6 months, and a total of 600 beneficiaries. It's going to be more or less 100 beneficiaries a month. And we have a sample set for 95.5 of that, probably is going to be around 380. And we divide those 380 in 6 months. And that's how the basic scheme and how this tracker is made. Each area has its own tracker, and it's consolidated through SharePoint, and all that goes into the meal activity tracker, which is an online tool available by pressing the link in the previous slide that shows the loads of the team. This allows us to distribute the team load, because many times we have a project that has a lot of measurements at the end, and we might want to distribute that or coordinate our teams to help each other across locations. Because otherwise we'd have to rely on external help and with less quality of data, because there's no time for training, right? Like enumerators and stuff like that. At the same time, this helps us to plan the meal structure of the country office. We can say, look, we have all this amount of measurements needed as a minimum to report to the donor, so we cannot go under this amount of staff because this is the time requirement, right? We're collecting each of these tools. We know how much a PDM for SNF is. We know how long a legal satisfaction survey can take by phone or by site monitoring. So yeah, it's quite easy to plan for ourselves, and at the same time we have the ability to stop missing assessments. Most of them are planned. We can go through them and see, look, we're missing. It's March now. This graph is old. So we're missing this measurement. Why didn't we do a legal satisfaction survey for this particular graph? Again, the detail for this is available in the link here, and also in the meal induction agenda, a Word document that has all the links for the automated reports and the meal activity tracker. And that's it for the monitoring side.